Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name's John Campea, and this is a companion video. Now, every day on the John Campea Show and on Open Mic in the afternoons, we take some time and take live questions from you guys, but we don't always have time to get around to all the live questions. But I want to make sure you guys know if you send those questions in, they do get answered. So we take those questions that didn't get answered and bring them here to the companion videos and address them here on this show. So with all that being said, let's get on and start getting caught up here. And the first question we're getting caught up on comes to us from Anthony Redden, who writes, "Hey, John, love your show." Okay, so not really a question, just gone. Thank you, Anthony. I appreciate that. I'm glad that you join us, and I love having you as a viewer. Thanks for watching the shows, man. Adamus95 writes, "No worries, dude, but you have to hear the Danny Phantom theme song at some point. So catchy and gets you pumped. Great show as always, dude." Okay, so if I remember right, where this is coming from Adamus, he wrote into the show the other day, asking me about what I thought about this show called Danny Phantom. And apparently it was a show on Nickelodeon and things like that. And I said, honestly, I've never heard of it. I'd never even heard of the show. So like, coming from Canada, we didn't have Nickelodeon in Canada. I'm not saying that that show didn't play in Canada, but I know we didn't have Nickelodeon in Canada. So I don't know if it played in Canada or not, but if it did, it was never on my radar. It wasn't one. So I've had a few people write to me, and now including Adamus, following up and saying, hey, just make sure at some point you jump on and listen to the theme song. So I will do that at the conclusion of today's show. I'll check out the theme song. So thanks for following up with me, Adamus. All right, next one comes to us from Blue Tiger 700, who writes, "Just saw on IGN, Showtime has ordered a Halo TV series. Do you think video games will work better as TV series and films?" Oh, it's too blanket of a question. That's like saying, do cop stories make better movies or better TV shows? Well, it all depends on the individual story. There's no one blanket answer. Yes, cop stories are better as movies, or yes, cop stories are better as TV shows. There are great cop movies. There are great cop TV shows. There's no one blanket answer for, does this genre, like, does comedy work better in movies or TV shows? Well, the answer is neither. I mean, you can't pigeonhole a genre per se. I will say this. I mildly feel like video games are better suited for movies. Like if you're going to adapt them into a narrative storytelling format, like television or movies, I mildly feel like it might be best to do them as movies, because they're kind of like in the format that narratives in video games are told. They're told more in a movie format. You know what I'm saying? But again, that's not a definitive answer, because it depends on the story you're writing. It could work very well as a TV show. It could work very well as a movie. It could fail at both. So look, they were never able to get the movie going. So if you're going to have better success at getting it kicked off as a TV show, then by all means, try kicking it off as a TV show. They tried for years to get it going as a movie, and they never could. So why not try as a TV show? So the answer really is it has equal opportunity to succeed or fail on television or in movies. Again, I mildly feel like the structure of stories in video games are more akin to movies than they are to TV shows, but that's just a minor leaning. So ultimately, I'd say, hey, it could work or fail on either. There's no one blanket answer, to be honest with you. All right. Let's see here. Sveen86 writes, "Have you seen Marathon Man? Great movie, but I have to skip the torture scene every time I see it. It's really not graphic at all, but so, oh no, it's horrible. First of all, let me just make sure because I have before said the wrong thing. Now I'm thinking of the Dustin Hoffman movie, but just let me make sure that we're not talking about something else entirely. Okay, no, we are talking about the one. Okay, so the one with Laurence Olivier and Dustin Hoffman. Well, yes, I have seen Marathon Man. I gotta admit, it's been, oh gosh, 15 or 20 years since I've seen it. It's been an awfully long time. You know, it's funny, just had this conversation with Anne last night, because Anne, with one of her girlfriends, went to the Hollywood Bowl to a big sing-along presentation of Grease. And she comes back last night, and she's all like giddy because she had such a great time. She goes, you know that part in Grease where so-and-so and so-and-so and they're doing the beauty school dropout song, blah, blah. I'm like, no. She goes, but you've seen Grease. I'm like, yeah, baby, I've seen Grease, but it's been like 20 years since I've seen Grease. She goes, do you remember this part? I'm like, nope. Like, she goes, what do you remember? I was like, I remember Grease Lightning And you better shape up, cause I need a man. I remember that part, but that's about it. Other than that, I like remember nothing about the movie. I've probably seen it 2 or 3 times, but it's been at least 20 years. Marathon Man's kind of like that to me. It's like I remember the movie, but I can't remember anything about it, to be honest with you. So, wrong guy to ask right now. Wrong guy to ask. When did that movie come out, by the way? Hold a second. Click. Yeah, 1976. So it came out when I was probably like 3 years old. So it's been a while since I've seen it. It's been a long time since I've seen it. All right. The Halo Brony, I love that name, writes, love your show. Thank you so much, Halo. Just want to say that my school buddy from Sweden is now playing hockey for Canada. Oh, that's awesome. P.S. Are you interested in the football World Cup? If you're talking about the soccer World Cup, nah, not really. Look, I'm not a soccer fan. Just being right up front about that. I'm a big sports fan. Must admit I'm not really a soccer guy. I get into soccer every World Cup because Italy's playing in it. Or I've gotten into it because the U.S. is in it. And I've never been into it because Canada, as far as I know, has never been in it. But this year, neither the U.S. and inexplicably Italy did not make the World Cup this year. So since none of the teams that I would be rooting for made it, I just didn't have any interest, so I didn't watch. Now, I'll probably watch the semifinals and the finals. Like, I don't like baseball, but I'll watch the divisional finals and the World Series, because there's great drama in that. I don't really follow college football a lot, but I'll watch, you know, the playoffs and stuff like that. Same thing with World Cup. I'll probably watch the semis and the finals. I know Russia just had a big win over Spain in penalties, so, you know, a little Cinderella story there. But honestly, I'll only watch it if Italy's there. Like, I pull out my Forza Italia every year, but they didn't get in this year, so I haven't really been following it. Let's see. Micah T writes, do you find it weird at all that Tony and Vision didn't have a more in-depth relationship since Vision used to be Jarvis? You know what? I thought about that for a bit. And upon watching it again, and then again and again, what I realize is that while Jarvis was a great personal assistant, better than, you know, Google Assistant and better than Siri and all that kind of stuff, or Alexa, like way above that, Jarvis wasn't a self-aware sentient being. You know what I'm saying? And this new entity, this new being, Vision, is a self-aware sentient being. So I admit, I thought the exact same way as you did, Mike. At first, like, hey, why isn't there more tightness and camaraderie between? And then I realized, well, because before Ultron, Jarvis was just a really advanced personal assistant app. Like, really advanced, but not self-aware, sentient being level. Whereas that's what it became, this merger of Vision and Ultron and whatever else it was they mixed in there. That became Vision, and it was really a completely new being. At least that's the way I look at it. I could be wrong. Like, if we sit down and talk to Kevin Feige, maybe he'll say I'm way off base on that, but that's just kind of the way I've interpreted it, and that's the way I've thought about it. So once I started thinking about it that way, it stopped being an issue for me. But again, maybe, you know, next time if I have another chance to talk to Kevin Feige sometime, I'll ask him about it and see what he has to say. Maybe I'm way off base. Let's see. Shri S writes, do you see video essays critiquing films that you like/love? If so, are you able to get why they're not liked? There's 2 on Man of Steel and BVS that I like, and you should what? Nah. Oh, look, because what I really find is, for the most part, I'm not saying all of them are like this. Please don't misquote me here. I'm not saying they're all like this. But I found when somebody puts together like a more in-depth like video essay on a film, they are trying to push their own personal view. Why this movie sucks, why this movie is awesome. And for some people, those are great. And some of them are very well put together and all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, all it really is For the most part, a lot of time. Again, I'm not saying all of them, but I've found that a lot of them that I've checked out have been, this is my point of view, and here's why you're stupid if you don't agree with me. And that's just what I find a lot of them are. I mean, they won't put it that explicitly, but really, when you get down to it, is this person liked this movie and is pissed off that not everybody did, and they're making this thing about why you should love what he loves, or vice versa, why you should hate what he hates. And I find for the most part, there's usually an agenda behind, like most film critics, like most film reviews are just people getting on to tell you whether they liked it or didn't like it. I find a lot of these essays are to tell you why you should agree with them. And again, I'm sure there are many out there that don't do that. My experience has been, and all I can do is speak from my experience because that's all I got. My experience on the couple that I've checked out before have been, they're generally preachy. And I don't like preachy. But they're generally preachy in, this thing sucks, and here's why you need to acknowledge it sucks. Or this thing is great, and here's why you need to acknowledge it's great. I prefer what most people do with their film reviews, like whether the professional critics or just, you know, amateur hobby YouTubers. Most people, when they review a film, they're just saying, hey, so here's this thing about this movie, and I ended up liking it, here's why, or I ended up disliking it, here's why. Whereas I find these longer video essay type of things are, here's why you should think this is this, and why you should agree with me that this is this, you know? And for that reason, I don't really watch them for the most part. For the most part, I don't watch them because I usually find they start from a position of having an agenda. And it's like, well, I'm looking for a discussion. I'm not looking for an agenda. I'm not looking to be told what I should think and that I'm wrong if I don't think it. I'm more looking at people's reviews and saying, hey, here's what I saw in this movie, and I ended up liking it, and here's why I liked it, or I didn't like it, or whatever. And like whether it's the same opinion as mine or not is irrelevant. I just like hearing people saying, I watched this, here's what I found in it, and it worked for me, and here's why, or it didn't work for me, and here's why. And I enjoy hearing that, whether it's people who agree or disagree with me with that. It's a different thing when it starts off from a position like these essays are quite often like I said, they usually have a goal. And that's generally the stuff that doesn't work for me. Maybe there's a lot of you guys that stuff does work for you, and that's great, and you get a lot of enjoyment out of those. That's wonderful. It's just not really stuff for me. That's all. Okay. Ian Nguyendu writes, do you think Sony creating their own Marvelverse without Spider-Man means they are willing to keep him in the MCU, or is it setting up for his return? Oh, it could be either. That's the brilliant thing and the advantage that Sony has with the position they're in right now. It could be either or. They're in a position right now where they could bring Spider-Man back into their Sonyverse, or they can have a thriving, successful Sonyverse without Spider-Man and continue to profit from having Spider-Man over in the MCU. They're in a no-lose situation here, really. They can go either way, and there are advantages and drawbacks to whichever direction they go, but that's the beauty of the situation Sony finds themselves in. That's why it's wonderful being in the driver's seat. There are some people who very mistakenly still try to insist that Marvel's going to decide what happens to Spider-Man. No, they're not. Sorry, you can think that all you want, but the reality is the film rights to Spider-Man still solely rest with Sony, and Marvel can only do with him what Sony lets them do with him. And the moment Spider-Man Far From Home is done, their contract with Marvel's over, and they can just take Spider-Man right back into the Spider-Verse if they want, or they can extend the deal. I think there are big advantages to extending the deal for both Sony and Marvel. I think there are some advantages for Sony to bring him back into the Spider-Verse. I think a lot is going to be determined with Venom. I really do. I think Venom is going to determine a lot about what's going to happen and how this is all going to transpire. Because if Venom is a big flop, it could trigger Sony to do one thing or the other. If Venom's a big hit, it may trigger Sony to do one thing or the other. But even then, it's not so clear. Because let's say Venom's a hit. It gets 70+% on Rotten Tomatoes, for argument's sake. Let's say Rotten Tomatoes critics give it 70% plus. And let's say it makes over $450 million. Okay, big success for something like this. There's two ways Sony could look at that then. It could, number one, on one hand, it could embolden Sony to go, damn right, time to bring Spider-Man back into this. And it could embolden them to go, yeah, we can succeed. We don't need the MCU. We've succeeded with Spider-Man before, with Raimi's Spider-Man, with the first Amazing Spider-Man. We've succeeded with him on our own before. We can do it again. After look at this, we did this with Venom. We can do it with Spider-Man. Or they could look at it totally opposite and go, you know what? We got a big hit with Venom, and we didn't need Spider-Man in our Sonyverse. We didn't need to have Spider-Man here for Venom to be a big hit. Guess that means we don't need Spider-Man to make Morbius the Living Vampire a big hit. That could mean that we don't need Spider-Man to have Silver and Black be a big hit. So really, depending on if it's a success or a failure, they still have options available to them, right? Like, which way do they decide to go? I think right now, Sony is in a sit-back, wait-and-see mode. I think Sony right now is in a sit-back, wait-and-see. Let's wait and see how Venom does. And then once Venom does its thing, we'll have a clear picture about what our options are and which way we'll want to go. So really right now, Ian, I think it could go either way. It really, really could. We'll just have to wait and see. Kevin Kamaki writes, so thoughts on MoviePass? I think Kevin's being a little bit facetious here because you know very well what my thoughts on MoviePass are. A great idea. MoviePass was a great idea. Copying Cineworld in Europe, but still a great idea nonetheless. And if you guys watch my older videos on MoviePass, you know that I was all for them. But, you know, the more and more they started showing they had these underhanded, gangster-like business practices, when they started mistreating and misleading their customers, when they started trying to strong-arm and use their customer base as blackmail against movie theaters to try to force movie theaters into doing things the movie theaters didn't want to do, when they started, you know, blacking out certain movies that members could go and see because another movie opening on the same weekend paid MoviePass a promotional fee, when MoviePass started pulling all of that BS, I quickly soured on them. I still carried around the card. I was still more than happy to utilize the service that I was paying for, but I soured on them as a company. And then this kind of weaselly, in my opinion, this weaselly CEO of theirs coming out and just bold-faced lying to everybody. Oh, no, we're doing this, we're doing this. You clearly are not. Like, you're clearly not. It was all those things that really just soured me on them. And the fact that their business plan was never to be sustainable. Their business plan was, let's get as many users together, even if our business is unsustainable, our business model is unsustainable, but let's get a big enough user base that we can force the movie theaters and we can blackmail the movie theaters into cutting us into their concession stands and their movie ticket prices and all that kind of stuff, or else we won't let our 5 million, they don't have 5 million, but if they did, we won't let our 5 million customers use your theaters. Huh? Now what do you say, huh? Like, when they started doing all that, I really quickly soured on that company a lot. And I was like, you know what? It's obvious you're going to die soon, and now I'm kind of happy you're going to die. So then Cinemia came along. I was a big fan of Cinemia. It's a much more sustainable thing. They had much better business practices. Not a perfect company by any stretch of the imagination, but much better. And then in the midst of all that, Cinemark started their movie club, which I thought was a really nice move on their part. It's a really good deal. If you live near a Cinemark, the movie club is a good deal. And now AMC launched their A-List thing, which is fantastic. Then Alamo announced that they're going to be test marketing their own movie subscription service. And now you know that Regal's going to do their own because now Regal is owned by Cineworld, and Cineworld's had a movie subscription membership thing for 10 years. It all spells the doom of MoviePass, thankfully, and unfortunately, probably Cinemia. But who knows, maybe Cinemia can still exist in this landscape, but we'll have to just wait and see. All right, Maurice Cook writes, hey, John, is there any 80s Saturday morning cartoon that you would like to see as a live-action TV show or movie? I would like to see Thundar the Barbarian. Not really, to be honest. Look, there's many of them that you could make, and I'll be fine if you do. I'll be fine with it, and I'll be perfectly pleasantly happy to go and see them. But honestly, right now, is there any, like, that they've made that I'm like, we're scratching at the wall saying, why have you not made this? I really don't have any. I mean, look, I'm as interested as anybody to see a live-action Thundercats. I think it's becoming less and less likely that's going to happen. We still may or may not get a Masters of the Universe He-Man movie, but we've had one before. It's been a long time, but we have had one before. But yeah, honestly, off the top of my head, I really can't think of any that's just like, oh, you gotta make this one. No, not really. I mean, the ones that I would have thought are Transformers, and we got them. G.I. Joe, and we got them. So, yeah. The only other one is like maybe Space Battleship Yamato, but that's not really 80s Saturday morning cartoon show because it's an adapted anime. But yeah, so that's just kind of the way I see it. Let's see. John K. writes, another Grace Randolph insider scoop. Wonder Woman will fly in Wonder Woman 84 by lassoing the wind. I'm not even kidding. She needs to fire her sources. Well, look, who knows? Maybe what she's being told is correct. Let's not pretend we haven't seen crazier things in movies, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not saying I believe it, but I'm also, hey, why not? We've seen crazier things in comic book movies. So now, like the other thing she put out about the Bob Iger wants to secretly fire Kathleen Kennedy thing, I believe she was told that. So I don't think she's lying. I believe she was told that. But I do not believe what she was told for a second. I believe that she was told that, but I don't believe the information she was told. Not the slightest bit. It makes no logical sense. And I broke down earlier last week 3 main reasons why what she was told makes absolutely no logical sense. Like, it doesn't hold up. It would not hold up in a court of law. It just made no sense whatsoever. So, no, don't believe the Bob Iger thing she said. Don't believe it at all, because it doesn't make any sense. Now, I'm not saying that, Kathleen Kennedy's going to be there for the next 3 years. I'm not saying that at all. But that specific thing that Bob Iger gathered all the department heads from Disney to talk about how he's thinking about firing Kathleen Kennedy, that is not how business works. That is not how executives work. That is not how Bob Iger works. It's certainly, and besides, Bob Iger doesn't need input or permission from anybody to do anything. He is High Lord and King of Disney. He is the chairman of the board and he is the CEO. He answers to no one. He didn't have to answer to anybody when it came to John Lasseter. He certainly wouldn't have to answer to anybody when it comes to Kathleen Kennedy. And it would be the most unprofessional thing in the world to get tons of all the department heads together and talk crap about how you're thinking about hiring one of the other leaders in the company. You don't do that. That is not how businesses work. No self-respecting, worth an ounce of a movie of any type of a company executive would function that way. It would make Bob Iger the most incompetent, idiotic CEO in America. And he is obviously neither of those. So yeah, don't pay any attention to that one. But this Wonder Woman thing, again, look, I'm not saying it's true, but again, can you and I honestly say we haven't seen more ridiculous things than that in comic book movies? Of course we have. So yeah, I don't know that I believe it, but I wouldn't 100% discount it. I wouldn't 100% discount it. Okay, let's see here. Christian Clayton writes, just finished Lucifer season 3 and wow, I can't wait for season 4. See, that was the other thing. Like, when Lucifer season 3 had its season finale, we all already knew that Fox had canceled the show. And I won't spoil anything for those of you who do watch a show and maybe haven't gotten caught up yet. But the way the season finale ends, you're like, how can you not have a season 4? How can you not have a season 4? I mean, it was just mind-boggling to me. I mean, you're right. I'm totally with you on that, Christian. I cannot wait to see what Netflix does with this show. Very excited for season 4. All right, let's move on now. Matt Hendricks writes, hey, John, have you ever seen the 2008 film The Strangers? If so, I think it's very underrated. Yes, Scott Speedman, Liv Tyler. I'll be honest with you, I have a number of friends who really like that film. It didn't quite work for me nearly as well. I mean, I walked out of it going, that was okay. Like, I didn't dislike the movie, not at all. But it didn't quite click for me. I don't know if it was the acting or I just found this, like, they asked me to suspend my disbelief a little bit too much for that kind of a movie, or I didn't find it scary or whatever. But for whatever reason, my friends seemed to like it a lot more than I did. And clearly, Matt, you like it a lot more than I do too. So I'm the odd guy out here. Clearly, I'm the odd guy out, and that's perfectly fine. I'm perfectly comfortable being the odd guy out. But yeah, I know either they are making, hold on a second, or they've already made it. Hold on a second. The Strangers, or it's coming out. It's either coming out or it already is out or whatever. Oh no, The Strangers Pray at Night. Oh, and I guess it already came out. See, that's how much attention I was paying to it. Came out on March 9th. Yes, and I'm guessing nobody's seen it. Oh, did it really? The Strangers Pray at Night. Hold on a second. The Strangers. Let me see what it says here. I can't find anything for it. Here we go. The Strangers Pray at Night, and it made 24 million bucks. Well, I'll be honest with you, that's a lot more than I thought it would have made. 24 million is not bad. 24 million is not bad for a little film like that. Yeah, so it did much better than things. That's how much out of mind it was for me. I can't even remember that it opened up this year. So there you go. So I didn't like it that much. I do not think it's an underrated movie, Matt, but a bunch of my friends would agree with you that it is. And that's the beauty of the subjectivity of film. All right, let's move here. Mr. Undecided Voter writes, I forgot to mention that of those 6 AMCs near me, 4 have IMAX, AMC Lincoln Square, 13 FKA Sony Theaters is an original IMAX screen, and 2 have Dolby Cinema. So if I'm remembering right, and by the way, guys, I do apologize for the noise, but I need to turn on my air conditioner because I don't know if you can tell I'm starting to sweat in here. It's pretty warm. It's summertime in the San Fernando Valley in California. It's a little bit warm, so I'm going to turn on my air conditioner. I apologize for the noise. I can't really, it can't be helped at this point. So Mr. Undecided Voter wrote into me talking about the AMC A-List, was so excited because he had all these theaters near him, and that's an impressive list of theaters, dude, to be living near. That's a really good, impressive list of theaters to have near you. That's awesome. Let's see. Brandon Martin writes, how far back do you look for email topics? Oh, not far back at all. I get around, give or take, I get around 100 emails a day. So I will go through most of the emails and pick 3. And that's one of the reasons why every day I say, guys, keep your emails to 90 words or less. Because if I open up an email and it's like this long, I mean, unless it's for something else. But you guys know, every day for the John Campea Show, like I put up this graphic that says, email me anytime at john@thejohncampeashow.com. Put the word topic in the subject line. So that way I know that the thing you're emailing me about is a topic for the show. And that if people put other things in the topic line, then they're emailing me for other things. So that's why I tell people, put the word topic in the subject line. So when I open up one of those emails that has topic and it's like this long, I don't even read it. I just skip over it because I wouldn't even be able to fit that in the show no matter what. Not to mention, I've got to get through 50 other emails, so I don't have time to read these mini novels, you know. But there's enough new emails that come in every day that I don't really have time to go back. What I normally tell people is this, is that if you send in an email, understand it will probably not get used because of the sheer number of emails that come in, and I only take 3 a day. I only have time to take 3 per day. If you think it's a good email, and it's a good topic, it's a good question, just try sending it again 3 or 4 days later. If you've tried sending the same question in 2 or 3 times and it's never got responded to, then probably assume that means I don't think it's a good question for the show. And also, keep in mind, you might be sending in a question that may have been asked 50 other times. Or you may be asking a question about something that I don't think most people will care about. Like, for instance, somebody can write to me, I get emails like this all the time. John, have you ever watched the 1990s Japanese animated show, blah, blah, blah? I think it would work great. See, something like that is not a question I would pick because something like that, the odds are 99% of my audience has never seen that show you're talking about, and so they won't be interested in hearing a conversation about that particular topic. So be aware. Ask yourself, is this a question that has been asked many, 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 many times? Also, here's the other thing. About 80% of the questions that get sent to me are about comic book movies. if you want to increase your chance substantially of getting your email on the show, ask me about something else other than comic book questions. Because I'm only going to take so many comic book movie questions, and if 80% of the questions that get sent to me are comic book movie questions, then you got a much better chance of getting picked out of the 20% that aren't, right? Again, doesn't guarantee it, but you have a much better chance. So ask me questions that are not about comic book questions. Don't ask me about completely obscure little things that most of my audience wouldn't be interested in hearing an answer about, and try to make sure it's not a question that's been asked a ton recently. Like if somebody asked me a question you heard me answer it about a year ago, it's fine to bring it up again, that's fine. But like if somebody's asked the same type of question 8 times in a row, like seriously, for about 2 weeks straight I had people asking me, John, what do you think about Lucifer being saved by Netflix? It's like, I've answered that question about 7 times in the last 8 days, you know? So just, there's some hints about getting it, increasing your chances to get an email picked. Okay, Richard Walton writes, Power Rangers 2016 or Transformers 2007, which is better? Love your show, John, you're an inspiration. Oh, Transformers 2007. Transformers 2007, for sure. I actually really love that movie. I love the first Transformers movie. And by first Transformers movie, I mean first live action one. I love that movie. Love it, love it, love it. I think it's great. All the other ones were garbage, but I think I thought the first Transformers was great. And look, I enjoyed the new Power Rangers movie, which is a shock because I thought, I mean, I said for a long time, this movie's going to suck, it's a bad idea, blah, 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 blah. But that's why you leave your expectations at the door and you just watch the movie and judge it on its own merits. So I went and watched Power Rangers and went like, you know what? I actually thought that was kind of entertaining. Bravo! You know, even though I thought for a long time, I said, this is going to be stupid, this is going to be awful, this is dumb, 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 dumb. And that's what I honestly thought. But then the movie comes out, take your expectations, leave them at the door, go into the theater with an open mind, and yeah, I had to eat some crow on Power Rangers because I actually thought it was pretty entertaining. And I have no problem. I love being pleasantly surprised by movies. Love being pleasantly surprised by movies. But definitely I'll take Transformers over it. No question. All right. Sean G writes, good day, John. In regards to Wonder Woman 1984 and all the talk about Steve Trevor, I'm old enough to have seen what they did with him in the TV show with Linda Carter. Why can't he be the great-grandson again? Well, first of all, a great-grandson wouldn't look 100% exactly like his grandfather. Plus, I think Patty Jenkins has made it pretty clear. She goes, welcome to 1984, Steve Trevor. And she puts up this picture of Steve Trevor looking like a fish out of water in like a 1980s mall. I mean, look, could you do this? Could you do that? Could this happen? Could that happen? Sure, a lot of coulds, what ifs, maybes. It's all possible. That 1% chance still exists. I think we ought to just take Patty Jenkins at her word. Patty Jenkins seems to be clearly saying that this is Steve Rogers. This isn't some other guy that happens to have the same name. This isn't some dude who just happens to be an impeccable lookalike. This is Steve Rogers. Welcome to 1984, Steve Rogers. So, or Steve Trevor, I should say. Steve Rogers is a totally different guy. Sorry about that. Steve Trevor. Yeah, Steve Rogers, that's a very different movie. If Steve Rogers were in a Wonder Woman movie, that would be something to talk about. But anyway, yeah, welcome to 1984, Steve Trevor. So, I look, is it possible? Yes. Likely? No. So I don't think it's likely that it's a great-grandson or anything like that. But who knows? I'm not saying it's impossible because we've been surprised before. All right. Sid Vicious writes, thoughts on Gyllenhaal's sharp turn from boyish movie star leads to intense, troubled performances in a year, 2010 to 2012. Did he want to be taken seriously? Well, every actor wants to be taken seriously. And it's not like he made a choice to make a big turn. Like, some people believe that actors they can pick whatever movie they want and be in whatever they want. And the reality is that's not really the case. Like, for all we know, he was going for those deeper, heavier roles prior to that and just maybe not getting them. And then he started getting them. So, I didn't think it was all that big, harsh turn, because let's not forget, too, he did that one comedy with Anne Hathaway. I mean, he still does silly, light stuff here and there. He's actually pretty good at it. But he's also fantastic and more intense things. That Boston bombing movie he was in, unbelievable. Obviously, Nightcrawler, unbelievable. The dude's just a top-notch actor. And I thought, look, I still think there's a chance he's the new Batman. I still say there's a chance he's the new Batman. I'm not saying he's going to be. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this on any insider information. That's the point. I'm just saying I still believe there's a chance he's the new Batman. He's going to be Mysterio in the Sony verse. I mean, so just an incredible dude. But never assume that, oh, he chose to play light roles and just turned down serious ones, and then all of a sudden started to accept. No. He was probably going out for all the roles. Was only getting certain roles, and then as he got a little bit better, he got more, more recognized, more well-known. He started getting these other types of films. And I think that's probably the more likely the scenario for a situation like that, all right. Pablo Diablo writes, visiting Toronto and Chicago soon. Any recommendations of places to visit and places to eat? You're the best movie news channel on YouTube. Keep it up. Well, thank you so much, Pablo. Chicago, I have no idea. I've visited Chicago once, so I'm not the right guy to ask. Toronto, look, Toronto is the greatest city in the world, other than Hamilton, Ontario. Hamilton, Ontario is the greatest city in the world. But Toronto is a magnificent city, and there's literally anything you can do. Go to the waterfront. By all means, visit the CN Tower. Go on Yonge Street. Soak up the cultural diversity. So many places to eat. I mean, it's just like say, hey, it's kind of like asking, I'm visiting China. Anything I should see? Well, yeah, maybe a billion things to see. So it's hard for me to kind of narrow it down. But to be very touristy, but you got to check it out, is go to the CN Tower. Go to the CN Tower at least once, and you'll remember it for life, especially if you go up the tower. It's kind of crazy. All right, thank you so much, Pablo, and thanks for the kind words, man. I appreciate it. I hope you have a great time in both Chicago and in Toronto. All right, History Soup writes, do you think we'll see Batman in either Joker movie? Good question. It's funny. I was thinking about that the other day myself. I'm not really sure. I do not think, oddly enough, I don't think we're going to see one in the Martin Scorsese one. The one with Joaquin Phoenix. I don't think. Now, again, let me be very clear. I'm not saying I have any information on this. I'm just speculating. Just speculating. That's all. Could be right, could be wrong, irrelevant. I suspect we won't see a Batman in... You know what? I'm thinking about it. Maybe I'm changing my mind. We've already seen Batman in Jared Leto's Joker. Maybe we won't see Batman in the Jared Leto, and we will see a Batman. But then how do you do that without it being a Batman movie? I don't know. You know what? If I had to put $1, I will bet we won't see Batman in either. But I'm only willing to go $1 high. I wouldn't even be willing to put $5 on that. For all we know, we're going to see him in both of them, and he's going to be a major character in both. Right now, my suspicions are we won't see him in either. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to go for now. For now, I'm going to go with I don't think we'll see him in either. Who knows, though? I'll have to wait and see. Pablo Diablo follows up. What movies inspire you to go hard at the gym? Mine is 300 and Man of Steel. Great to see Thanos and the Collector again in Sicario 2. That is right. That's right. You got a little bit of a Infinity War reunion there in Sicario 2. Too bad Sicario 2 wasn't any better. Anyway, Rocky 4. Rocky 4. That's the one to me, no matter how good or bad of shape I've ever been in my life. When you watch Rocky 4, and Rocky is in Russia, in the winter wastelands of Russia, and get training for his fight against Drago, I don't care who you are. You want to go grrr, and you want to go to the gym. You want to go to the gym when you watch Rocky 4, man. I mean, absolutely 300, sure thing, Man of Steel, but when you watch that workout montage, that training montage of Rocky in Russia, don't tell me you don't get pumped up to go to the gym when you see that, man. I mean, come on, right? I mean, I think we all get our adrenaline going, yeah, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to do what Stallone's doing. None of us can do what Stallone did, but we think we can. I'm going to do that. But it's great. That every time makes me want to go hard to the gym, for sure. Okay. Ash Berrien writes, do you think The Flash and a majority of the DCW shows would benefit from having a S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4 format? I mean, having 3 different story arcs that are 8 episodes each with a month hiatus between arcs. No, that's... Again, we've talked about this a little bit before, Ash, is that some people try to see something works once and thinks, oh, that's the formula. That formula works. Quite frankly, I didn't think it worked for S.H.I.E.L.D. either, but it's not about formula. It's about good storytelling. Just tell a good story. Tell a good story that spans 21 episodes. Go. And pace it out. And, you know, put in the right twists and turns along the way to make it. Or if you want to tell 2 stories in a season, then do that. You want to tell 3 stories in a season? That's fine. Do that then. But I don't think any formula is the right way to do it. I don't think telling one 21 or 22 episode thing, or 2 10-episode story arcs, or 3 7-episode story, I don't think any of those are the answer. Any of those can work. Any of those can fail. So I don't think, look, so is it a bad idea for them to try it? No, it's not a bad idea to try it if you have the right idea for it. But if you have a good idea for your next season of Flash, don't crunch it down into a 7-episode thing just so you can throw in 2 more stories. You know what I'm saying? Do what is best for the story that you have. If that means doing 1 continuous big story arc for the season, great. If that means breaking it up into 2 or 3 different story arcs that hopefully have a connection between them into 1 season, great. I don't care. That's fine. It's not like there was any 1 season of Cheers that had 1 ongoing storyline. I mean, maybe there was like a loose storyline that runs through them, but every episode of Cheers was about something different, you know? So it's fine. But it's not about finding that formula. Say, oh, that's the formula. That's the formula. No, it's not about formula. It's about execution, right? So could it work? Sure. Would it work? No, not necessarily. It might not. Just find your story and then do whatever's best for your story. And that's just kind of the way I feel about that. Let's see. Because, by the way, Flash has had great success in previous years doing 1 main story that runs the season. They had great success. This past season's not an example, because I did not like this whole DeVoe season at all, but, you know, hey, it depends. Chris Fair writes, will Masters of the Universe ever happen? It's funny, I feel like we were just talking about that. I'm starting to feel no. And you know what? I think the longer and longer every day that passes, I think lessens the chances more and more. It's not impossible at this point. Like, we're still at a point that it could happen. But every day that passes, I think those chances are getting smaller and smaller. So again, if today I had to put $1 on it, Chris, about whether I think Masters of the Universe would happen, I'll bet no. I wouldn't put $100 on that, but I would put $1 on that. At this point, I feel like it's too little too late. And the further we're getting away from like the nostalgia of the original one. We're getting further and further away from it. The time to make this movie was 5 years ago. You could still do it today, but you got to hurry. And they haven't. So I'm actually starting to feel like it's not going to happen. Let's see. Spencer Smothers writes, AMC A-List has a 12-month price guarantee. Oh, I had not heard that. So I'm going to take your word for it, Spencer. I will let the rest of you guys know. I have not heard that AMC has guaranteed that $20 price point for a year. I haven't heard that, but just because I haven't heard it doesn't mean it's not true. Spencer clearly has heard that, so let's all look into that. All right, but thanks for sharing the information, Spencer. All right, final question of the day, and we are all caught up, comes to us from Maurice Cook, who writes, John, we haven't seen how a young... I'm just going to turn off the AC now, because we're almost done here anyway. John, we haven't seen how a young boy became the Batman, not the Nolan movie, but how he trained himself both physically and emotionally, mentally, less of a 3-hour movie, and like the 70s Superman movie. Okay, if I remember correctly, Maurice asked a question the other day about why haven't we seen a real Batman origin story? And I said, well, we have seen Batman origin stories. What are you talking about? So Maurice following, how a young boy becomes Batman, not the Nolan movie, but how he trains himself. I don't think anybody's interested in seeing that movie, to be honest, Maurice. I think everybody's fine seeing a small segment in a movie about Batman's transition from boyhood to becoming Batman. I honestly don't know that the vast majority of the movie-going audience would be interested in a movie about a snotty teenager, kind of developing and then become... That's a teen angst movie more than anything else. I just don't know that the vast majority of the movie-going audience would be... Like, maybe some hardcore comic book fans would be interested in seeing that, but I just don't know if a lot of the average movie-going audience would be interested in seeing a Batman movie that's not really about Batman. it's about the kid before he becomes Batman. I don't know if there's a lot of interest for that out there. I might be wrong. I could be totally wrong about that. But I just think the average film goer, like my mom, my cousin, I don't think they're interested in rushing out to the theater to see a movie about not Batman, but a kid who will someday become Batman and maybe by the end of it puts on the cowl. I just don't know if there's a lot of interest for that. I don't think it's a good business decision. If you got Batman, people want to see Batman. I feel like I think there's hardcore comic book fans out there that would disagree with me for sure, but I think the vast majority of the average movie-going audience, and that's where you make your money, I think they're interested in seeing Batman. I don't think they're interested in seeing 17-year-old Bruce Wayne, you know, doing whatever it is he's doing. I just don't know that would make a lot of financial sense. So I don't think so. I don't think we're going to see that. Never know, though. I mean, we've got something like that, right? It's called Gotham. And I hate the way they're doing it on Gotham, but whatever. But so they're trying it on Gotham. To me, it doesn't seem to be working. But yeah, I mean, there might be some creative merit to it. But again, I just don't think that you're going to, I just do not think you'd have an easy time convincing the average movie-going audience to shell out money to come and see a Batman-less Batman movie. You know what I mean? Anyway, again, could be wrong. Could be totally wrong. It's an interesting observation, though, Maurice. All right, guys, that will do it for this installment of the Compainion video. We are now all caught up. Don't forget, guys, tomorrow, the John Campea Show, back on the air, 8:30 in the morning, Pacific Standard Time. Make sure you join us live or watch it afterwards if you want. And, of course, we always have the open mic later in the afternoons as well. All right, guys, that will do it for me. Thanks a lot for being here. My name is John Campea, and until the next video, bye-bye.